My wife demanded a divorce and the house. You can't afford a lawyer to fight me, I replied. You're right. She served me papers in court, then froze when she saw who sat next to me. Original post. I always believed that when a marriage ends, it doesn't have to end in war. I thought we could be mature about it, civil. My wife, apparently, had a different script in mind, one where she was the conqueror, and I was left picking up the pieces. We'd been married for 6 years. Not perfect, but I thought we had something worth fighting for. Maybe that was my first mistake, fighting for someone who had already moved on. Looking back, the signs were there. Cold silences that stretched too long. Her phone never left her hand, always flipped face down. Weekend girls' trips that became more frequent, but I kept telling myself it was stress, that maybe we just needed time. Then, one Thursday evening, she came home from work and told me she wanted a divorce. No emotion, no explanation, just a crisp, emotionless statement. This isn't working anymore. I want the house, and let's not drag this out. You can't afford a lawyer to fight me anyway. That was the moment I realized she'd been planning this for a while. She already had the narrative written in her head. She walks away with everything, and I disappear quietly because I can't afford to stop her. I'll be honest, I was stunned. Not just by the divorce, not just by the fact that she wanted the house, but by how smug she was about it. There wasn't a shred of guilt, not a hint of empathy, just calculated detachment. I didn't even argue. I just nodded and said, "You're right. I can't afford a lawyer to fight you." And she smiled, not kindly, not sadly. She smiled like someone who had just won a game she rigged. What she didn't know was that I wasn't admitting defeat. I was buying time. You see, I do have a brother, James. He's 7 years older than me. Grew up protecting me, standing up for me, mentoring me. Life took us in different directions. He moved across the country and became one of the most cutthroat, expensive divorce attorneys in the region. He doesn't do favors. He doesn't take sides. He rarely even talks about his cases. But when I told him what was happening, he said just 6 words: "I'll be on the next flight." He didn't ask for the whole story. He didn't ask if I could pay him. He just showed up, all business. That's the thing about James. He doesn't waste time on sympathy. He brings solutions, and sometimes a little vengeance. We spent the weekend going over everything: my finances, our shared assets, the mortgage, her hidden accounts, because yes, she'd been moving money around for months. He picked up on things I never would have noticed. He mapped out a strategy like he was preparing for war, and he didn't charge me a dime. I asked him once why he was doing this, especially when he always refused to mix family with work. He said, "You're not my client, you're my brother." That makes her a problem. So I waited. I didn't tell her James was in town. Didn't mention a lawyer. I signed the preliminary paperwork she sent, but never filed a response. She thought I was stalling out of fear, that I was just dragging my feet while she gathered more leverage. In reality, we were just waiting for the court date. On the day of the hearing, I arrived early, sat alone in the courtroom, wearing my best suit, nothing flashy, but respectable. I kept my expression blank, even as I saw her walk in with her attorney. He was everything you'd expect from a $400 an hour, shark, slick suit, confident swagger, carrying a briefcase like it was a trophy. She looked proud, like she was walking a runway instead of stepping into court. She glanced at me, gave me this little smirk, and whispered something to her lawyer that made him chuckle. I didn't react. I just looked back toward the door, and right on cue, it opened. James walked in. Now my brother's presence has always had a weight to it, but in that moment, he looked like he owned the damn courthouse. Tailored suit, leather briefcase, a calm look on his face like he had already won. He walked right up to me, adjusted his cufflinks, and sat down beside me like we were grabbing coffee, not about to ruin someone's day. My wife's face drained of color. Her lawyer looked confused. Then James turned, looked directly at her, and with the coldest, flattest tone I've ever heard, said, "He doesn't have to afford me. I'm his older brother." Silence. You could have heard a pin drop. Her lawyer's face twisted into something between confusion and concern. She looked at me, then at James, then back again like she was trying to process what just happened, and me. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, finally feeling the shift in power settle like gravity on her shoulders. For months, she thought she was in control, that she held all the cards, that I was just the poor, stunned husband who couldn't possibly fight back. She forgot one thing: you never corner someone who still has family willing to burn the world down for them. Update 1. She tried to negotiate after court, but it was too late. I wish I could say she stormed out of the courtroom in tears, but she didn't. She left like someone who had just walked headfirst into a glass wall, shaken, stunned, but still trying to pretend she hadn't just embarrassed herself. After James dropped that line, "He doesn't have to afford me. I'm his older brother," her attorney asked for a recess. That was the first crack in their overconfidence. From that moment on, the tone of everything changed. Gone was the smugness, the arrogance, the belief that I was an easy win. Now they were cautious, defensive. We reconvened after lunch, and James made it very clear we weren't there to settle. Not yet. He wanted discovery. He wanted records. And more importantly, he wanted everything documented under oath. That's when I saw her start to panic. See, James has this way of speaking that's both calm and terrifying. He never raises his voice. He never insults. But every sentence is a scalpel, cutting straight to the point. And he didn't waste time. We believe Mrs. Carter has failed to disclose all accounts under her name and has made multiple cash withdrawals from joint funds within 90 days of filing. We'd like to subpoena her bank records, her Venmo, PayPal, and all app-based transactions, including those under alternate emails. Her lawyer started to object, but James kept going. Oh, and we'll be requesting testimony from her employers specifically, the colleague she's been traveling with on 3 out-of-town weekends. There's a discrepancy in her listed PTO and the locations she tagged on social media. If we're discussing equitable division, I want to make sure the court has a full picture. That last bit about the colleague, that was personal. A hint from James to let her know we weren't just fighting for assets. We were dismantling the lies she'd built this whole thing on. Her lawyer asked to take things offline, which was just code for, "Please settle this before my client gets exposed." But James declined, politely. After court, we didn't speak. She tried to make eye contact as I walked out. I didn't return it. That night, she called me. I let it ring twice before I picked up. Her voice was different, not the sharp, smug tone from before. It was small, meek. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Just us." I leaned against the kitchen counter and let the silence hang for a beat before replying. You made your choice the moment you served me. We'll talk in court. She started to say something else, maybe try to guilt me into a late-night peace treaty, but I hung up. James told me not to engage, not even for emotional closure. She wants off the ride she started. Let her scream. We're not slowing down. And he meant it. Over the next few weeks, things escalated fast. James filed motion after motion, tearing through her claims like paper. Turns out she'd opened a separate savings account almost a year. Bowen funneled small amounts out of our joint funds every other week. She thought she'd been subtle. She wasn't. James tracked it through paper trails and flagged transfers. She also claimed she'd purchased the living room furniture and high-end appliances with her own money, which James dismantled using timestamps from our joint Amazon and Wayfair account. Every single item was proven joint property. Her separate purchases weren't just exposed as lies, they were petty. Then came the kicker. She'd tried to claim she'd put down most of the down payment on the house with an inheritance from a relative. But the account, she said, the funds came from had no such deposit. James subpoenaed the estate lawyer, who confirmed no such inheritance had ever been issued. She had lied under oath. Her lawyer tried to pivot, offering a new proposal. Suddenly, they didn't want the house anymore. Just half of the value. They also dropped spousal support from their demands. James told them to shove it. He didn't say that, obviously. He said, "We decline. My client is now prepared to seek full compensation for misappropriated funds and fraudulent claims. Any settlement would need to account for the damage to his financial standing due to her dishonesty." Translation: you don't get to lie and then ask for mercy when caught. Around this time, mutual friends started to pick up on what was happening. At first, many of them believed her version that I had blindsided her, that she had no choice. She even told a few people I'd hired some monster lawyer to intimidate her. But truth has a way of leaking out. One of her own friends, who had been sympathetic to her, messaged me on Instagram, said she was sorry for assuming the worst. Apparently, my ex had bragged in a group chat about bleeding me dry before she even filed. Screenshots made their way round. The tone shifted fast. By the time our second court appearance came around, she looked like a different person. Pale, tired, hair tied back instead of perfectly styled. Her expensive lawyer had lost the cocky grin. James, on the other hand, looked exactly the same. Sharp.com, dangerous. That day, James submitted a motion to force the sale of the house and have the proceeds divided based on actual contribution, not 50-50. Given her financial deception, the judge agreed to consider it. She tried again after court to talk. Followed me into the parking lot. "Please," she said, "we don't have to keep doing this." I turned, looked her in the eye, and asked, "Doing what, exactly?" "Holding you accountable." She started crying right there by my car. Not for me, for herself, for the situation she created and suddenly didn't want to be in anymore. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just said, "You wanted to win. You just didn't expect to lose." Then I got in my car and drove off. James was waiting at my place with takeout and whiskey. We didn't talk about her much that night, just sat outside, drank, and enjoyed the quiet. "You know," he said, "she underestimated you because you were calm. That's the thing people forget. Still waters don't mean no current." That stuck with me. I wasn't loud, I wasn't cruel. I didn't scream or beg. I let her dig the hole, and I let James hand her the shovel. It's not over yet. We still have one more hearing where the final terms will be decided. But she knows now. She knows she lost. And not just the case, not just the house, but the narrative. Her friends, most of them stopped speaking to her. Her boyfriend, the one she'd been sneaking around with, apparently found out she wasn't getting the payout she promised. He dipped real fast, and me. I'm not celebrating. I'm rebuilding. I'm sleeping better. I'm spending more time with people who give instead of take. And I'm starting to remember who I was before she convinced me I wasn't enough. Funny how clarity comes after silence. She thought the courtroom was the final battleground. It was just the beginning. Final update. The house isn't hers anymore, and neither are our friends since I last posted. 4 months since the courtroom showdown that turned the tides. 4 months since my ex-wife realized that her carefully laid plans were unraveling thread by thread, and there wasn't a thing she could do to stop it. And now it's over. Completely, officially, legally over. But this isn't a story about revenge anymore. That part is done. This is the part where I tell you what it feels like to walk away with your peace and leave someone else holding the weight of their own destruction. Let's start with the verdict. Thanks to my brother James, whose surgical precision in court made every one of her lies crumble under oath, the judge ruled overwhelmingly in my favor. Not just a fair division, a corrected one. Her attempt to hide assets backfired. The judge labeled her behavior as an intentional effort to mislead the court for personal gain and imposed sanctions. She was ordered to pay a portion of my legal fees, despite originally claiming I'd be penniless and alone in that courtroom. That alone was poetic justice. But it didn't stop there. She wanted the house. She lost it. James didn't just argue against her taking it. He proved that I had made the majority of payments over the life of our mortgage. He brought bank records, payment receipts, and even my original loan pre-approval from when we bought the home, showing I could have qualified on my own if I'd wanted to. The judge gave me the option: keep the house or sell and split the profits, based on actual contribution percentages, which, in our case, meant I'd walk away with nearly 80%. I chose to sell, not because I couldn't stay there, but because I didn't want to. That house had too many memories soaked into its walls, good ones that she poisoned, and bad ones that still lingered in the corners. I didn't need a monument to survival. I needed a fresh start. We sold it. Last month, I moved into a new place across town. Smaller, but cleaner, brighter. My name is the only one on the paperwork this time, and every square foot feels like mine in a way that house never truly did. As for her, she walked away with far less than she expected and less than she deserved. She didn't get the alimony. She didn't get spousal support. She didn't even get sympathy. Because when someone lies that blatantly, repeatedly, and confidently, the court doesn't forget, and neither do people. Mutual friends started peeling away after the second. Hearing. First, it was a trickle, the quiet ones, who never liked picking sides. Then came the screenshots. Someone leaked parts of her group chats, her bragging, her manipulation, her jokes about bleeding me dry and upgrading her life at my expense. Some of her closest allies stopped returning her calls. A few reached out to me, not to apologize, exactly, but to say they saw things differently now, that they wished they'd asked more questions before believing her version. I didn't hold grudges, but I also didn't invite anyone back in. Truthfully, I didn't need them. My circle now is smaller, but it's real. As for him, the coworker she'd been traveling with, he disappeared shortly after the final hearing. I don't know the exact conversation they had, but based on her social media blackout and the way she went from posting brunch selfies to nothing at all, I think it's safe to say her new beginning hit a wall once the money didn't come through, James joked. If she had a backup plan, she better call her backup's backup, I laughed. Then I forgot about her, which is the best part. She's not in my head anymore, not when I wake up, not when I fall asleep. I don't replay arguments. I don't rehearse comebacks. I don't wonder what I could have done differently. I did what mattered. I took back my life. I see a therapist now. Not because I'm broken, but because I want to stay unbroken. And because it feels good to talk to someone who doesn't see me as a villain or a victim, just a man who survived something hard and came out the other side with some scars and a clearer view of who he is. I also started running again. I picked up photography, and I've been volunteering on weekends at a local dog shelter, something I always wanted to do, but never had time for when I was married and managing her drama. There's someone new, too. I won't say much. It's early, and I'm not rushing anything, but she's kind, steady, easy to be around. No games, no power trips, just someone who laughs at my dumb jokes and listens when I talk. And when I told her what I'd been through, she didn't flinch. She just said, "Well, sounds like you already did the hard part." She's right. I did the hard part. I stood still while someone I loved tried to burn everything we built. I stayed quiet when people believed lies about me. I didn't lash out. I didn't beg. I just stayed calm, stayed present, and trusted the truth would do what truth always does. Rise. It wasn't revenge that saved me. It was patience, and a brother who treats blood like a bond, not a formality. James is back on the East Coast now. We talk more often than we used to. He still refuses to let me pay him a cent. "You're my brother," he said. "You'd have done the same for me." He's probably right, but I still owe him more than I can ever put into words. And if you're wondering, no, she hasn't contacted me again. Not since that last day in the parking lot. I think she finally got it, that there's no more leverage, no more narrative to spin, no more audience for her performance. Her story ended the moment the gavel dropped and the judge read the ruling. Mine is just beginning. I won't pretend this was easy. It wasn't. There were nights I couldn't sleep, days I felt like a failure, weeks where I wondered how someone I trusted could betray me so completely and still sleep at night. But every wound healed, and every lie she told ended up exposing her more than it ever hurt me. And now, standing here, free, whole, and stronger than I've ever been, I realize something important. I didn't win because of James. I won because I stopped letting someone else write my story. James just handed me the pen. She thought I couldn't afford a lawyer. She was right. I couldn't, but I didn't need to. I just needed my brother.